Greetings, everyone.
Hi there.
You sound so excited.
I am, actually. Strangely enough, I am actually excited.
Yeah. This is G-20.
And SoupZ.
And welcome to our little bit of a podcast.
Little bit of a podcast. That was a long title.
Yes. You know me in titles. They're always long.
I know you in scores. They're always long and tedious.
Fuck off.
Anyway.
Making fun of me and my perfectionism.
It's not small, to be fair.
Okay, maybe not. Well, true. Okay, I'm not gonna deny that.
Anyway. The topic of today's podcast
is going to be
main topic.
Main topic, yes.
You might have guessed by now.
Maybe.
But to clarify, today's topic will be Pokemon X and Y.
I know it's a shocker.
Yeah.
But we're gonna talk about it. And we're probably a bit late about it though.
A little. I mean, we were gonna record way earlier, but
yeah.
Stuff got in the way.
Yeah, we've been busy.
Well, you've been busy. I've been doing nothing. But...
Yes. Okay, I've been busy.
Yeah. But since we've both finished the game, I think it's really we need to sort of
talk about it.
Yeah, talk about it. From my point of view, like Generation 5. The games themselves were fine, but as a continuation of the Pokemon series, after Generation 4, Generation 5 to me was a real disappointment. Ignore that! I don't know why the fuck that came up. Back on topic. Basically, Generation 5 to me was quite a big disappointment comparing to Gen 4.
Well, it was a disappointment to a lot of people.
Yeah. But I'm like... What I'm getting at is... Generation 6, to me, brought back that sort of just amazing Pokemon feeling. It took everything that sort of was wrong with Gen 5 and improved on everything.
Yeah. Like... I personally never kind of got into Gen 4 except like for the Soul Silver and Heart Gold game. But like I played 5 quite a lot when it came out because it was my second game on the DS system. Like, and I quite enjoyed it a lot. It was like a bit different, like a bit of different challenge. Because it wasn't really an easy game, though.
Not really.
But, so it was kind of fun playing it through and through, just like a Pokemon game.
I guess really my main problem with it is that while I did like the sort of new direction they took with having a more focus on the story, I felt they focused too much on it. And they sort of... It didn't feel like a Pokemon story to me. It felt more like just an RPG story, a generic RPG story at that. What
I kind of think was missing in that regard, like, is a little bit more actual reaction, like interaction with the Pokemon. That's kind of what, like, that's kind of the best thing about the Soul Silver and Heart Gold games was that you had a lot of interactions with your own Pokemon because they were following you around. That's kind of a feature that I don't understand why they took out.
Also, like, there was so much that was added in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, like the auto run button, the ability to like basically just have your registered items on the touch screen. It was so much easier, and having the pause menu basically just on the touch screen. It was so much easier, and they took all of that out of Gen 5.
Yeah.
It made no sense to me.
Yeah.
Whereas Gen 6 actually brought back a lot of that. Aside from, they had the circle pad for the roller skates. So that was really comfortable.
Yeah. But like I said, I kind of don't understand why they took out the Pokemon like following system.
Mm.
I just think that they should like rather than taking it out, probably improve on it. Like you could instead of like it be a requirement for you to have them follow, you could like just choose to have this Pokemon follow.
I think
like,
they tried to sort of implement the Dream World as a replacement for that, but it just wasn't a good replacement.
No, like, because it was on a whole different platform. And I think the problem with it when it goes to a different platform is like you got the Pokewalker with the other stuff, and like you had your Pokemon all around. Like before I even got my computer, I got the game and I put a Pokemon on my Pokewalker, like, and your computer I think or either your or my other friend.
No, it was not me.
And I kept him around, like just for funs and like. I leveled him up a lot just through that, and it kind of got like it was kind of like you were playing the game even before you were playing the game, and like with the like Pokemon following system, the Pokemon following you, I think like they should have improved on that rather than taking it out because, like for me, I personally loved having like my favorite Pokemon follow me. But like the worst thing about it was like it was always just the Pokemon at like the top. Like I personally would have liked it so that you could just chosen like this guy's gonna be following me, like, just like through a selection on the menu in the team menu or something like that, Pokemon screen. But I think that the Gen 6 games kind of brought back a lot of the like interaction with Pokemon because you could like find them all over the place in like in Lumio City and stuff.
Yeah.
They were all over the place and like you could ride them and stuff. It was like you actually interacted with a lot more.
It brought back the interaction and basically elevated it to a whole new level.
Yeah, because you were actually seeing Pokemon all over the place.
Yeah. And even like the interaction with your own Pokemon was brought to a huge new level with Pokemon Ami.
Yeah.
That was huge.
Yeah. And I think that was a good improvement. I really think they should not remove that that out of the future games.
Indeed.
But like it would be awesome having that along with the like option of having your Pokemon follow you. Because like for people that like enjoy having like one of your favorite Pokemon following you throughout the game, it's just a whole different experience. Like throughout all of Soul Silver, I never used the bicycle ever because I always had my Pokemon behind me, and it was kind of a fun feeling because like they want to go on the bicycle, then he'd have to go on his Pokeball, but but if I wasn't, he was like following me.
Yeah.
And it was so fun, like just seeing that sprite follow you, seeing that.
Yeah, it was a fun mechanic, and I kind of liked that. I also liked that it sort of it brought that feeling back from Pokemon Yellow.
Yeah.
It brought that sort of familiarity with your Pokemon. You got more familiar with them. You actually sort of, like you said, you interacted with them a lot more than you used to. But yeah, I think that Pokemon X and Y, I think they really took the sort of, one of the things I really liked is they took the more how do I describe it? What in my opinion was kind of the big story of Gen 5 and basically condensed it down, so it feels like more of a Pokemon story than Gen 5 did, but still felt like it was that sort of style of, you know, making the story a bit more of a focus. And yet they were also able to make it more focused again on the, you know, the original quest of going through the gym leaders.
It was kind of like more spread out than it was in the, because like everywhere where you went in Unova, you always had like a lot of these interactions with them, and
also
like,
one of the things I really liked is that the enemy team was not a focus from the beginning. It was like when you first actually encountered the enemy team, is like it's a bit into the game and you hear nothing about them beforehand. there's just like there's no mention of them, and then all of a sudden you just encounter them. I think that was a really strong move, and they really they did a good job with that.
But yeah, I think the thing about about Gen 5 was that like it was like a thick story spread all over the place, and like you never really got a proper focus anywhere.
Yeah.
And like all of the rival battles, like all of them, like were like very inconveniently placed.
Yeah.
It's like I had gone through the game without losing a single fight until I had like one guy with like 6 HP, and I was going into this one place, and there was like a city there, and I encounter a rival.
Yeah.
With full health and team, and like there's no way to like prep for that if you just like, oh, I should be safe going through here.
I also kind of think that what I think they did with Gen 6 was they had more rivals, but they still had sort of the amount of encounters as you did in the old games with one rival. Whereas with Gen 5, they basically doubled the amount of rival encounters to me. It was, there were way too many of them. It, like, by the end of the game, I did not feel like I was encountering my rival. I felt like I was basically just encountering the same trainer who was just on the same journey. He didn't feel like a rival, he just felt like another person.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, the last time you meet him, he's like ridiculously strong.
Yeah.
It's like a real power jump between them. It's kind of, which is why I think they actually made like the super difficult version of the, like, a modded version of the game that's super difficult with the Gen 5 in mind, because the game is really is difficult to begin with. I think they made the Blaze Black around the Blaze Black mod around that.
Yeah.
The room. But like adding a lot more extra difficulty to it, but still, I think like they focused on doing it with those games because of the potential there.
Yeah. But yeah, moving on to the gameplay. I think the gameplay is one of the things that Pokemon always has a strong focus on, and they definitely don't lose focus here because the gameplay is top notch.
The best thing is kind of like it feels a lot better exploring the world with like you have the roller skates and everything.
Yeah.
And like encountering some of the gym leaders before actually dealing with the gym and fighting them, it's kind of cool.
I guess one of the biggest problems I had with the sort of gameplay of Generation 5, and this may sort of be more of a problem with the graphics, but like I think they went a little over ambitious because they had the moving sprites, but after a while it just felt like it just felt like a GIF off the internet, because it was just it was just a constant loop, and you noticed it very quickly. And so I felt that sort of detracted from my experience with the game, whereas with Gen 6, I felt there was a lot more to it, somehow. I don't know how to explain.
Well, the like environment and everything was a lot more interactable, like because like instead of just having like the focus below them and stuff, you actually sensed the environment a lot more, because it was like a lot, and you didn't have that just behind the sprite feel. You were actually just around the battlefield. It kind of like in the stadium games.
Yeah, the camera was a lot more dynamic. It sort of followed the attacks and did a lot more, and especially with the sort of more powerful attacks, like I think it was Revenge or something, or Retaliate, where it's like it goes into like a cinematic camera and like it's really specific to that move, and I felt that was really a really strong move. It was fun to see that. It spiced it up a lot.
Yeah, it just kind of gave the battles also a lot more life, because like after playing 5 generations of the game just flat on 2D always in the battle, like it's not that it's like bad or anything, but like there isn't really a lot of improvement in how you're experiencing it.
No, it starts to sort of become sort of the same. You start it starts feeling kind of samey, and adding this, it sort of makes what like it makes the usual battle system of Pokemon games a lot more fresh.
Yeah.
It makes it feel like it's actually, you know, you're playing something sort of different.
Mm.
And it's very cool.
For me, really, like it was kind of funny, like when you started like playing in the game, like before you actually got the like roller skates and stuff, like walking in the grid movement like always, and like you got the roller skates and start moving freely, and then suddenly you like go back into the grid movement. It was kind of a weird feel like at first because you like you always saw that free movement on the roller skates, and sometimes like you were standing in a place and it didn't really pick up, like trainers were picking you up and stuff, because you were like you weren't completely in the square or something.
Yeah.
But like I think it was like a lot of fun having the free flow movement because like you could move a lot quicker throughout the world, and like you didn't really have to like take a step at a time.
Yeah. But the grid movement, I feel there's one point where the grid the grid movement really becomes very useful, and that's when you're mass breeding. I've noticed this recently because basically in front of the daycare there's like a line where you can just go back and forth. It's a really long line, and you don't have to be like running in circles or something.
I know why you've been mass breeding.
Fuck off. But basically, like when you walk out of the daycare center, instead of going straight to the roller skates or the bike, it's best to basically walk. I think it was like 4 steps out of the door, then go on the bike, and then just go back and forth, because then you're in a perfect line, and it works really well. And I think that sort of complements the grid system.
Kind of easier to figure out the steps that you need to take and stuff. Yeah, and that's why I think they keep it.
It was very comfortable, and I like the fact that they have that feature of, you know, being able to use the grid system still, because that's sort of how the Pokemon games have always been. But one of the things that I also liked is that they didn't try to go for a retro feel with having the camera in one place all the time. It sort of it changed depending on the area you're in. So the camera, both in the battles and in the areas outside of battles, was really dynamic, and it really felt great. It felt it was actually, you know, controllable to some extent.
But yeah, he's been trying to breed a shiny Honedge for a long time.
Yeah, it's not going well.
You should see all of the Honedges he has.
I'm trying to give him out on Wonder Trade, but
not going too well.
Nah.
I think you've been trading too many of them.
No, I've only given away like 5 so far. Because
out of the 100?
Yeah, pretty much. I've only given away like 5 because like most of the time when I go on Wonder Trade, I always get the same shit. Like you always get a Bunnelby or what was that guy's name? I can't remember. The fucking flower.
Flabébé?
Thank you, Flabébé.
Flabébé.
I can't.
Best
not
name in Pokemon history ever, Flabébé.
Oh yeah. But yeah, you know,
you
always get the same Pokemon in Wonder Trade a lot of the time. So, you know, what I've been trying to do with Wonder Trade is more like actually put out something good, put out something that's actually worthwhile, and sort of get the sort of flow going. If we can, you know.
Well,
it's not like I'm making much of a difference.
Well, I think that's the thing about like Wonder Trading. It's a really nice and awesome mechanic, like for people when they're just like starting out, like wanting to try to get just random Pokemon. But like the worst thing is like you'll always end up getting like random shit that's bad because some people are just trying to get the good stuff.
Yeah.
Just like trying to feed off others. And like there are always gonna be people like that, but I think people like would need to improve actually if they want to like start getting anything proper. Because like in between, if you are lucky and you Wonder Trade enough, you actually get something worthwhile.
Yeah. I've actually like most people that I see like online that are streaming a game and stuff, most of them are actually trading something worthwhile. They're actually trading something good, and not just, you know, trading the usual Bunnelby and stuff. But yeah, there are a lot of people that just say, oh, I want more good stuff. I'll go catch a Bunnelby. fucking trade that.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Like, Bun will be Fletchling, Flabebe.
The easiest guys to catch
yeah.
like at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I think that's kind of it's a misused feature of the game, which is sad because it's something that could actually greatly benefit the game a lot more than it's doing.
But yeah, it's definitely a fun mechanic to sort of play around with.
Yeah, like how we got stuck in it first time.
It is addicting.
We were stuck in it for like 2 hours or something.
Yeah. But like that's nothing though. I saw a live stream not too long ago. It was a few weeks ago. There was a live stream. It was a guy who dedicated his live stream to just wonder trading, and he was going for like 4 or 5 hours just wonder trading, doing nothing but that. That was insane. I just had that on the background. I was playing some game and I just had that on the background. It was fun. But yeah, like in terms of everything, all of the stuff that Pokemon X and Y does right, I feel that this is one of the stronger installments in the series.
I think it's like this kind of feels like when Silver and Gold came out first.
Yeah.
It was new and it was amazing. Like
the
thing is, like there hasn't been anything like that since kind of then.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
the only new things that the DS games have been introduced and stuff was like more content into the games, like and more like focused a lot more on the multiplayer aspect of it, like online battles and stuff. And we haven't really had any kind of focus specifically on the gameplay and the experience on the gameplay. It hasn't been really gone onto that for a long time. And I think like Soul Silver went into that a lot because they added the Pokelathon and the more interaction with your own Pokemon.
I think a lot of the stuff that comes from because like the original games were revolutionary for their time, and then Gen 2 came out and it was such a big improvement on stuff that people didn't even realize back then was actually bad stuff. And
oh god, don't remind me.
And then, like, every generation tried to get that going, and I feel that, I don't really know much about Gen 3. I haven't played that enough to really say what it was that they tried to do there. Gen 4 was a lot about sort of adding the online battles. Gen 5 was trying to revolutionize the story. And I feel that Gen 6 sort of just combined all those elements. They learned from it and made something new again, like they did with Gold and Silver, with just something
I
fresh.
played Gen 3 for a lot, and they like I think the thing they were doing there, because they had like 2 antagonizing teams there, and like I think they were trying to see a bit more like different ways to go with a team, like and like they went with a lot more like open sea area, like half of the map is just open sea.
One of the things I also felt with X and Y was the sort of motivation behind the enemy team leader. We're getting into spoiler territory, by the way, so in case you don't want to get spoiled, in case you haven't played it yet, don't watch the rest of this because it's gonna get spoiler heavy.
Just mute us and watch the video. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, totally.
It's a nice picture.
But basically, like, in past games, it's always been about taking over the world or, creating their own world or whatever. Whereas with Pokemon X and Y, the motivation behind the antagonist, it felt a lot more driving. I felt that, when I actually learned the motivation of the antagonist, I wanted to stop him. For once, I was actually like, I want to stop this guy now. And I felt like they did a good job with that, with sort of changing up the motivations and making something fresh. Like
that is kind of a problem I had with 4th gen, because like I got probably a bit more into 4th gen a bit later, not into the Soul Silver and stuff. I got into those games because those are like my favorite games, but I got into like Platinum and stuff. I actually bought Platinum and played that, and like it's not that I didn't enjoy the game. I just kind of like. For me personally, the game felt really out of place.
Yeah.
And
to me, Gen 4, like Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, they weren't as much about the sort of experience as they were more about sort of just atmosphere.
yeah.
The atmosphere I felt in Gen 4 was phenomenally well done. Whereas I feel with, Gen 6, that's where they sort of combined all the elements to make, the perfect blend of atmosphere and experience.
And that goes like because like they added a lot of like features like the mining thing, and but like that's a feature like you kind of never use.
No.
It's a very useless feature.
Yeah.
It's more something you'd use actually if you'd have someone like to be using it with.
The one time I actually started using the mining mechanic when I was playing Pokemon Pearl, my original Pokemon Pearl game, the only time I actually started using that was when I was trying to train Pokemon, and I was trying to train some Dragon types, and I needed heart scales to be able to get Draco Meteor. So that was the only time I actually started mining.
I think I did it to get some fossils. That was the only time I did it. I did it only to get some fossils, and that was it.
It was a fun mechanic. It was underutilized.
Yeah. And I think kind of like I played through the game and like mostly because I mostly wanted to play the game to get all the legendaries to send them over to my silver game. Like still wanted to try to enjoy the game, but I really like I'm like right outside Heathred's place, and I'm really not motivated into the game, and like the game itself is fine, but it doesn't really motivate me to play it.
Yeah.
Like when I start playing it, sure, it's not a bad game, and like I enjoy it.
Yeah,
but it's not something like I'm really crazy about getting into. It's like
I get what you're saying. I get where you're coming from, and
I never like put more than like an hour or so. Like I very seldomly I put more than 3 hours into it a day.
I get that, but like, yeah, I mean like Gen 4 for me was like. That was when I got back into Pokemon, so that's sort of nostalgic for me.
That was kind of Gen 3 for me.
Yeah.
I though kind of just missed the Gen 4, at least the main jump. I got into the remakes, but I missed the main jump into it.
But yeah, like a lot of the stuff that I feel Gen 3, 4, and 5 were trying to do. They were trying to do something to make sort of the entries fresh and sort of recreate that gold and silver feel. I feel that they learned a lot from all three generations and sort of combined a lot of their efforts to create Gen 6, which sort of brought back that feeling again.
I think the silver and gold remakes did a very good job in getting the elements. Because they kept the original feel of the game, but added some new things.
I think the main reason why Soul Silver and Heart Gold actually felt like something fresh was, I think it was mainly due to the fact that it was pretty much just Gold and Silver. Because those games, even today, are still, fresh. They're still amazing. And so I think a lot of that came from Gold and Silver. And they just sort of added the features that were added to Diamond and Pearl.
Something like that is on my mind and has probably been on your mind also, and a lot of people's mind, is this is something that I hear often talked about. Is the fact that you thing that made something silver and gold so amazing was the fact that you could go back to Kanto.
Yeah.
It was amazing going back and backtracking kind of where you've been in the previous game.
Yeah.
And like battling Red and everything. And sure, it's cool that you get like world championships and all that, but that kind of doesn't bring the same feel as like when you went there.
I think one of the biggest things about Gold and Silver with going back to Kanto was that nobody knew about it because there was no internet back then. Nobody knew about it, and so no one knew what to expect. And I think that's sort of what they did really well with Pokemon X and Y because they released it all. They released them simultaneously in all regions, everywhere. So no one knew what was coming. No one knew what the enemy team's motivation was, or pretty much anything about the story behind the game. And so I think that's why the game got that.
You hardly knew about the Pokemon until the game.
Exactly. There were a few announced, but not nearly all of them. So it was done really well.
But yeah, that's a feature that I think should be added into games to come. Like being able to backtrack into the places you've been. It would be amazing being able to go into let's just say go from Kalos to Unova just to travel through that region and conquer the championship there.
Yeah.
And then going maybe to Sinnoh Sinnoh region, and then Hoenn, and then
I think
Johto and Kanto.
I think the main problem with doing that is that, for one, there are space issues. They have limited space, and they want to make something new every time. But I also think that if they do that, then they have really no reason to do the remakes, because with Fire and Leaf Green, one of the main reasons I think they did that was to update the old games, because the games were back then, they were really flawed, and so they fixed a lot of the issues. But if they took the fixed mechanics of Gen 6 and remade the Gen 3 games, that would be amazing. But if in Gen 7 you get to go back to all the other regions, then there's really no point in making, for let's say, a remake of Diamond and Pearl, which, I mean, it's gonna happen eventually.
But yeah, it doesn't mean that you have to do it for all of the places. It's it would be nice going from the gen that you previously played into the older gen. From Hoenn, you would have maybe gone to Johto. Sure, it would make sense if you could go to Johto, you could go to Kanto. It's just the following, because they're next to each other. But it would make sense if you'd then maybe be able to go from Shinon to Hoenn and stuff. Just to experience the old place and the place that you just that you played around a lot. And I think that would just be an experience for itself, being able to go to these places, and not necessarily being able to go from I can go from Kalos to Unova to Shinon.
But I think though, the main thing is with Gen 2, they did Johto and then they redid Kanto, and it was such a surprise. But then after that, if they had done it with every generation, it wouldn't be a surprise. It would just be an expectation.
Yeah.
And so it wouldn't really be special anymore. And the fact that in Gen 2 you get to fight Red, that was one of the biggest surprises of all fucking Pokemon history.
The thing I think they should do is they should then just make a special game for that, just where you could go everywhere. And that is something they should bring out. They should though it would probably it would be awesome having it on the the handheld, the 3DS or something. I wouldn't mind though if it would come on the Wii U or something, because it would be a whole different thing.
There is a problem I have with that, and that the main problem stems from the fact that Pokemon has always been a handheld game series, and if they bring out a game on the consoles that is actually a full-fledged RPG, if they make an entry in the series, a main entry, or even just an entry where you can go to all the other regions on the consoles, then people are going to demand the main series to go to consoles. And that's not where it's meant to be. Pokemon is designed to be a handheld series. The games are designed so that you can play it in short bursts or long bursts, depending on where you are. So I think moving that experience to consoles would not be a smooth transition, and they would have to work on a lot. And besides, if they made a game where you had all the other regions, what's to stop them from just updating that game? It it's the same theory as the Pokemon MMO thing. If they make a Pokemon MMO, you're never going to see another main series game. Because they're just going to update the MMO. They're just going to update the MMO with a new region. There's going to be no story behind it. It's just, that's it. So, really, that basically kills the original Pokemon experience. That kills what the experience is supposed to be. And so, I think they're really making a good decision of keeping it with handhelds, keeping it where it was originally at. Because that's where it belongs. Now, I mean, I wouldn't mind to see a Pokemon game go to, like, Wii U. Like, just like a game like Colosseum or XD Gale of Darkness. You know, those were RPG experiences that were just designed for consoles. And even like Stadium, that was cool. But that was also a contained experience. That was an experience that was basically just... It was made for battles. It was made to showcase the battles and the graphics. It was not really made to be like a main series game. It was just a side thing. And I think that really, it fits.
But this is still like, it has inspired some people to actually go out and make the, like, at least start working on or thinking. It's like the Pokemon Generations project. Got people, and like, you and I have seen it, and it looks amazing.
It looks good. I'll admit that.
And the plans that they have for it is like, it's awesome.
Yeah, it looks good, and I'll admit that it's really cool. But I think that that's sort of where it belongs. It belongs with the fans.
Yeah.
If the fans want it, then they can create it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Nintendo should take their focus away from creating what they're good at. Because Nintendo and the Pokemon Company and Game Freak, they are really good at doing what they're doing now with the Pokemon series. And I feel that if they take focus away from that, it would be like similar to the transition that Final Fantasy went through. When they went from the PlayStation 1 to the PlayStation 2, it felt like they were focusing too much on the graphics. They were focusing too much on making it like look good, and they weren't actually writing stories that made sense or were cool. Like it wasn't the same thing. And the Final Fantasy experience started to get diluted, and I think that Pokemon, we don't want Pokemon to go through that. We want Pokemon to stay where it is now, and the bigger, you know, the more 3D, you know, if you want a 3D remake of, let's say, Pokemon Gold and Silver, there is a remake being made by the fans, and a really good one at that.
Like, we could just like then just leave it in the hands of those that want to make it.
Exactly.
And like, and I don't think like Nintendo would really stop them unless anything, you know.
No, they haven't stopped them
up
yet,
until now.
So I mean,
and I think like because development on that's gonna be slower than normal, because I think they haven't gone anywhere. Like they haven't gone.
Generations hasn't gotten that far.
Yeah, it has only been like adding Pokemon.
Yeah.
Not a lot of like region expanding and stuff.
Not really, no.
But I think like the plan to begin with was to make up to Gen 3 and then continue on from there.
Yeah.
But like they wanted to bridge the gap there.
Yeah.
And I think what's gonna be cool about that experience in itself, it's gonna be cool playing a game that the fans make to represent how they like. This is just the fans like creating something to honor what they like, the franchise that they love. And I think like because I know a lot of people who are like anti Pokemon generation everything except one, and like sure I can get it why like people want to stick with that, but like the biggest problem I have with like those people often, not talking about everyone, because like if you don't just generally like the other generations, I respect that, but a lot of them don't even try the other games and don't even give them shots.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a shallow way to think of it because, like,
it's really a shame.
Because like the thing, like one of my guys, the friends that I know, he's like, he goes like, everything beyond Generation 1 is shit. And he hasn't played.
It's such a shame because Generation 1 was so flawed. It was revolutionary for its time. I'll give you that. It was good when it came out, but now it is so just marred by design flaws and just so many bad things, and people just don't see that. These people are just, they don't get it.
And we were like really this opened our eyes really, especially during the time we were actually recording the game and playing it, because a lot of the game was like expected level grinding if you wanted to do anything proper.
Like here's the thing with Gen 1. If you're playing it on your own, it's fine, because then you're immersed into the experience. But the thing that we discovered, really, when we were recording, was that because we were commentating on it, because we were discussing things, we weren't getting immersed into the game itself. We weren't getting immersed into the adventure as much, so we noticed all the design flaws. We saw everything that we don't see when you're playing the game on your own handheld. It was a lot different in that respect.
And I really think that's still a good thing, because sometimes you just need to take the games you love, and like the beginnings and everything, like even those that you really love, and you need to see them in a perspective, as you would if you wouldn't really be as immersed into it, because you need to see the game for as it is.
Yeah, you need to see what's wrong with it as much as what you see is right with it.
Yeah.
You need to see everything, the whole picture.
And even like if you see all the flaws, that doesn't mean that you need to start hating.
Exactly.
You can still play the game and enjoy it. Like we can still do that.
Yeah.
Like, but the thing is, we
might
still
take a while.
Yeah, it might take a while. But that's mostly because it was such a hell playing it.
Yeah. I will never forget when I didn't pick up enough Pokemon to get Flash.
Yeah.
That will be an experience that will haunt me for years to come.
I think that is one of the best things that has ever happened. And will probably be the best thing that has ever happened to our channel.
That was pretty good. That was an interesting experience. I'll say that.
Because like, the reaction you had was so priceless. I didn't believe it. You were like, what? What?
I was pissed off.
But yeah, I think you sometimes need to see the games in the real light.
Yeah.
See it how it is when you're not focused all into it. It's good that the game is immersing you, but sometimes you just need to see the picture flat out and just realize, okay, if I wouldn't love this game, it would suck balls.
Exactly. Like, pretty much, if that had been our first experience with Pokemon Red and Blue, we would hate the game.
Yeah.
It would be despised.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think sort of getting back to Generation 6. I think they did so much right. The Pokemon designs are good. There were no Pokemon that felt like filler Pokemon, except maybe Bunnelby.
Bunnelby was...
Bunnelby and Diggersby, I think, were the only sort of Pokemon that felt a little fillerish. But
the thing about them, like, I am usually all out for bunny Pokemon and everything, but the thing about Bunnelby, and let me just get it out there straight, he looks fucking fucked up, and I just don't know.
Ridiculous.
I don't know where to put him. I don't know if I want to put him on the shelf or under the fucking toilet seat.
It's weird. But yeah, like, I think, like, closing thoughts on Pokemon X and Y, it's great.
It brings a lot of new things into the genre itself, into the Pokemon genre itself, because it's kind of a thing on its own now.
And like it's without a doubt, if you don't have a 3DS, this is a reason to buy a 3DS.
This is even like really friendly towards new users, and I've noticed a lot of like people that like I said, weren't interested into actually buying, like getting into the new Pokemon games, like just stuck on Gen 1 or Gen 2.
Yeah.
And actually getting the game and really liking it and getting into the series as a whole from that, because this game is kind of like, it's kind of like Gen 2 all over again. It's affecting everyone kind of. And like everyone's kind of into trying it. It's like that guy that was like talking on that group. And he was like, the fuck about these new games, and like I told him, dude, shut up and buy it.
And he was like, okay. That's pretty much how that whole conversation went. It was like he posted something on Facebook, a few comments came, and then G-20 just like posted, dude, buy the game. And he was like, okay.
Basically that. Just dude, buy the game, try it. It's amazing. It's worth
it.
It's worth it.
Go.
And this is exactly why I think it's such a disappointment that like people haven't actually given the other generation a try, because like sure they might not have the same spark as Gen 6, but every single one of them has a little bit of their own spark.
Yeah.
Even Gen 5. Gen 5.
All the generations have their own appeal.
Yeah. The thing about Gen 5 in a whole, like as a whole, it felt like it was a bit forced out there.
Yeah.
Like it felt like they were trying to please the fans just by getting it out there.
Pretty much.
But that doesn't mean that they failed in everything.
No.
A lot of the Pokemon they made were really good.
The story, while I admit I did not feel it was as much Pokemon as it was just generic RPG story, it was still a good story.
You could get immersed in the story even like without, and that is a good thing about it.
The characters were fun. The character of N is still that character is by far one of the best creations that came out of Pokemon.
Like every character, like, and everything from the game, like story-wise, is really strong.
Yeah.
And a lot of the new Pokemon from there are really creative in their own way, and a lot of them just bring a lot new into the series itself. Like there are examples like Solus and stuff. And I'm not gonna get started on Garbodor, because I'm gonna bring up the same argument I told one of my friends when he was like bitching about it. I told him, if Garbodor would have appeared in Gen 1 and Muck would have appeared in Gen 5, this would be the same fucking conversation, just reverse.
Exactly.
And I don't get why they give him such hate.
Nah, he's not exactly pretty, but I think he's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I kind of like him.
And I think like the main purpose of Gen 6 was kind of like a rebirth of the series. That was the plan, and that's why maybe a lot of the Pokemon felt like they felt maybe a bit like they were copies of something else.
One of the things that I told one of my friends at school, who I was talking to about Pokemon, is like Gen 5. It felt like they were just trying to pad out the Pokedex and try to create 150 Pokemon again to sort of, get a new, to not have old Pokemon in there. So there were a lot of Pokemon that felt like filler. Whereas Gen 6, while there are a few new Pokemon, I think they're like only about 70, while that is a much smaller number, none of the Pokemon actually feel like
they're forced into the game.
Yeah. They feel like they're like really naturally just there.
And like the thing about like Gen 5 in that regard, sure there are Pokemon that feel a bit like put into there, like pushed a bit into the story and that. But like I said, it was an attempt to actually recreate the series a bit. They wanted to like get a new perspective. Wanted you to go into a place where every Pokemon you encountered was new. Like just wanted to put you on a place where you'd experience everything like from beginning.
Yeah.
And encountering all of the new Pokemon and such were like, it was fun. Like, sure, Patrat is probably just a copy of Rattata and Woopat of SoupZ. It's blatantly obvious.
Yeah.
But the thing is, even though that is the case, that doesn't mean that it's a bad game.
No.
The main reason why it's was done like this, and is probably done like this, is so that they could bring you a new experience, even though the Pokemon were similar, felt similar, like were a bit filler. That it was an attempt to recreate the series as a whole.
Yeah.
And to be kind of a standalone. And
to an extent, it was like they were trying to recreate the feel of
Gen 1.
Gen 1.
And I think
which sort of worked because Gen 6 is like the Gen 2 of this.
Yeah.
it's really weird. But yeah, like it's completely correct what you're saying. Is that?
And I just think it just can't be helped that some of the guys feel like they are filler.
Yeah.
But because they want to bring you the variety and
but I mean, like,
you can't always go 100% original on.
Yeah, but like it's the same as the Garbodor Muck argument that, you know,
yeah,
if you were to swap the Pokédexes,
yeah,
you would say that all the Gen 1 Pokemon were just copies.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing. So I think really that Gen 5 it was a good game. Not quite up to snuff, not quite up to expectations maybe, but still really good.
I think the main reason is that it kind of fell below expectations because of all the hype that was put around it. And I think people just got a bit disappointed with it.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was because they were recreating Gen 1. They wanted to get the new feel out.
Yeah.
And like this argument about the Pokemon being Gen 5 and Gen 1, if you'd swap them, it would be like you'd say the same thing. That just doesn't apply to any of the other gens, because these are the only generations where you actually bring 150 new Pokemon 100%.
Yeah.
Where like none of the other Pokemon are presented until much later in the game.
Yeah.
Like sure, they don't appear at all in Gen 1, but like you won't get the national decks until like after the game itself. And sure, you can get like the older Pokemon, but that's only through trade.
Yeah.
And like you couldn't even do like one world trade or anything like that if you didn't like have the Pokemon name or anything. So.
Yeah. Now, I want to ask you. This may seem a bit weird to ask this mid-recording, but how long do you want to make this thing?
Now we can just like go a bit more.
There's one thing I want to touch on before we end it, and it's got nothing to do with Pokemon. There's just one thing I want to discuss on the podcast, just sort of get our opinions out there, and that is No Man's Sky. During the VGXs this weekend, there was a reveal trailer for a game called No Man's Sky, and if you have not seen this trailer, go check it out. That was the freaking... excuse my language, but that was the tits.
Now I'm gonna go and just tell you my honest feelings about this, because this is kind of a thing that I've been waiting for a while, because I'm a real big fan of these like exploratory like games where you like get to explore space. I'm a real sci-fi fan. I really love when you take the sci-fi feel and like give it properly to people. And the thing that bugs me really, really, really much about the gaming industry currently is that you get so few sci-fi RPGs and such that you can enjoy, because most of the games that are made are always like strategy or something like that, or you can't really experience the whole space, like the wide feel like of the space, because like I want to touch on kind of like Mass Effect, please, because Mass Effect is a RPG sci-fi game that I really, really love, and I love every game in the series. A bit disappointed with the end of the series, but I really love the series as a whole. And like, if there's anything, like, the problem that I had with it was the lack of like interaction with the space itself. You're seen in space, cutscenes are in space, you go into a spaceship and everything like that, but you don't feel actually as you go through space, because the only place where you actually go through the space, like in space and anything, is on the galaxy map. Yeah. And that's just basically point and go. And sure, the game, it doesn't need the space, like any space things extra, but it would have heavily like improved on it for me, because like being able to explore the space itself would have been amazing. Like even if it would just be the space around each and every planet.
That's one of the things that sort of a similar thing for me was with Star Wars: The Old Republic. You know, that game is really good, even though I don't have the patience to actually get through the entire thing, because it's a freaking MMO. But one of the things was they created space missions, and everyone was excited for space missions, and then it was just this on rails thing where you had no freedom, essentially. And now they have the new Galactic Starfighter, where you get free flight in dogfights. I like that a lot, and I'm very excited to actually play that when I get access in January.
Yeah, that's kind of a thing also, like, it also matters how you're given this ability to fly through space, because putting us on grid movement doesn't give us the feeling of traveling through space. It gives us the feeling that we're on a train and we get to slightly maneuver on the train.
It's basically like you're looking out the window of a train.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
And the thing that I really must say, like, it's a disappointment, because like all the great space games that are out there, like EVE Online, it's a great game, and like it would be amazing getting invested in it, but the biggest problem about it is that it's real time, and it's really hard to get into, because you literally have to invest.
Yeah, the problem with EVE Online stems from the fact that you have to invest so much time into it. Because, like, if it was just this, if EVE Online was just a game where you could just jump in and start playing, it would be no problem. We would probably both be playing it right now.
Yeah, exactly.
But the problem with EVE Online is that it has such a really steep learning curve. And you really have to just sort of force yourself through that and learn everything to actually be able to play it properly.
But the great thing about it, and that's the thing I really love about it, is that the game is massive, and it has a lot of stuff, and like a vast galaxy that would be amazing to explore. But the problem that is hindering us from doing that is actually that we can't get into the game properly, because if we want to make a new spaceship, we have to wait maybe half a year, and like not in game time. Real
game time is real time in EVE Online, but that I feel is sort of where No Man's Sky is coming in. Is they're creating this space combat exploration simulator, which, you know, when you look at the trailer, you can see, and they even talked about it at the VGX, is that, you know, going from the ocean of a planet, walking up to the shore, and walking on the planet is completely seamless. There are no loading screens. And, you know, just walking up to a jet or a spacecraft or whatever, walking in, you know, opening it up, sitting in the cockpit, closing it, and flying up into space, all completely seamless. It looks like this is going to be that sort of definitive, immersive space exploration game.
The thing that I want to touch on now, like, because I mentioned role-playing in sci-fi, because there aren't a lot of like role-playing sci-fi games, at least not proper ones, because I've seen some, but they never really go deep into it, or never actually explore it properly.
The problem is, the problem that I feel with sci-fi games in recent memory has been is that
they always follow a series. When you see a new sci-fi game, it's almost always Star Wars or Mass Effect or Star Trek or something like that. It's never something original.
The thing though, when Mass Effect came out, it was completely original.
That was original when it came out. Yeah, I'll admit that.
But there's been a real lack of actually really good ones, because the biggest problem is that all of the games that are coming out now that like are specifically space planned or something, they are usually just strategic.
Yeah.
And that is something that just isn't fun for people that really don't enjoy the strategic games completely. Coming from the guy that played Command and Conquer when he was like 6 years old. The first game, might I add. But like, the thing that I would like love to see and would be amazing to see is a kind of a Skyrim styled, like styled after the Elder Scrolls, but like in a different. This is where I have a problem with the Elder Scrolls series. They are labeled as a role playing game, and it is a role playing game.
Yeah.
But it very much lacks in roleplay. For me personally, at least, when I play a role-playing game, I want to experience something similar to like Mass Effect and Dragon Age, where you make a choice and it actually like affects.
Yeah.
And the thing, like, sure, there are times that you can make a choice in Skyrim and such where it actually affects, but really,
it's very.
It never impacts you.
I think what Skyrim and Oblivion and the Elder Scrolls series in general is sort of going for a lot more is while Mass Effect and Dragon Age, they take your choices into effect and that affects the story. The Elder Scrolls series is a lot more exemplified in the fact that because it's open world, it's basically allowing you to live your life in this universe, allowing you to immerse yourself into a life that is not your own.
Like, a way that I kind of see it is that the Mass Effect series, the Elder Scrolls is kind of like it's kind of like you have a book that is already written, but there are like pages in between that you can write on your own.
Yeah.
And like, the thing is, these are like just small bits and pieces, like what you're doing in between each and every story. And this is like just the things between chapters. And sure, that's fun, like, it's fun just roaming around in the game and just doing dirt. But in the long run, it's not a game that you get really invested in.
Says the guy who poured hundreds of hours into Skyrim.
Yes, and that's why I can actually say it, because I poured hundreds of hours into the game.
Yeah.
The thing that really invested me into it was when I actually played the Dragonborn expansion.
The game that immersed me was Oblivion. That was a game that I can pop in Oblivion any day of the week and just play and just do nothing.
The thing about Dragonborn was that because you had played Skyrim, like, sure, I played Skyrim for like 50 hours maybe, and sure, it was fun. I'm not saying it wasn't fun. I played the game. I like completed mostly everything in it. But the thing about Skyrim was that like everything got kind of boring real quick. And I went into the Dragonborn expansion, and like the thing about that, I just got really absorbed into the story because the story was like a lot better than the actual story of the game. Like, for me personally, and I really enjoyed that, and I really just got invested in that little island that you got, and I found it so fun just exploring it, taking care of doing all of the missions, and like 90% of my time in Skyrim is on that island at the coast of Morrowind in SoupZ. And that's the thing that makes me kind of sad. It was the DLC of the game that made me play the game, not the game itself. And sure, like, it was really fun, but it still lacked the actual, like, making the feeling of actually giving you the freedom of actually choosing some things. Like, sure, you can go on and kill everyone, but that doesn't really give you the, like, but when you actually talk to a guy and like get it, you really don't get a choice in the matter.
No.
You go by a script.
I think one of the biggest things that immersed, like, one of the reasons I say that Dragon Age Origins is one of my favorite RPGs on the PC, at least, is that, like, Mass Effect is a really good series, and I really love Mass Effect. I really love all the games in the series. But the reason I love Dragon Age Origins more than any of the Mass Effect games is because there you create your own character.
Mm-hmm.
You create who you are, and you don't go by anyone else's sort of way. Whereas when you play Mass Effect, you basically just jump into the shoes of Commander Shepard.
Mm-hmm.
And while you do get to make choices like where he grew up and, you know, what his sort of military history is and stuff like that, there's still always that, you know, feeling that you are someone else. Whereas in Dragon Age Origins, you are who you want to be. And that's one of the reasons why Dragon Age 2 sucked balls. Because that was just Mass Effect in medieval ages. That was all it was.
The thing, though, about like Mass Effect that really made it good was the story itself. Like, Commander Shepard was made into such a good character.
I'm not saying that I didn't enjoy that. I really enjoy Commander Shepard as a character. He's one of my favorite sci-fi characters. I'm just saying that, you know, as an immersive RPG, I felt more connected to the character in Dragon Age Origins than I did with Commander Shepard.
And that's kind of what I think should be made for a sci-fi series. A game that lets you create your character. Sure, you can customize Shepard and everything, but that's not really your own character.
No, you're still Shepard. You're still that basic. And
I think that you really should be able to create your own character in a space role playing game, in a sci-fi role playing game, where you're able to explore planets, travel on ships all over the place, and just explore and just do what you want. And like, sure, you don't really need to be. The necessary thing is not the quests or anything like that. No. If you go on like with No Man's Sky, I don't think the requirements is like having quests or anything, because if you're a role player, you can make that stuff in.
I think the way No Man's Sky, at least, like, we don't know much about No Man's Sky right now, but the way I feel it is, like, from the trailer, from what I can see, the direction it feels like it's going is, it feels like No Man's Sky is going in the route of sort of Minecraft, where you create your own objectives. It feels like it looks like it's going to be that kind of game where everything is generated as you go, and you just do what you want to do. You set your own goals.
This kind of like brings me up like with the one thing that I kind of liked about WoW. And that was the like role playing in it, because at the time that was the biggest, probably still is.
It still is.
It's the biggest, biggest MMO.
Yeah.
And it was also the biggest role playing community, like through a game, and like joining a role playing guild in that game was just amazing fun.
Yeah.
And that was the only thing I enjoyed about that game, because if you joined a good role playing guild, you could have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Just experiencing, not for the game, but you're experiencing it for the stories that the guild itself made.
Now, I would like to just sort of bring that out there. I agree. World of Warcraft, not a good game. It's not fun. It's the combat is annoying and dull, and I did not get into the story. However, it cannot be denied that World of Warcraft is the best MMO out there when it comes to popularity. Yeah. It is the biggest MMO out there, and it will never be toppled. That's something that I feel a lot of people just can't get over. The fact that World of Warcraft will never be toppled.
It's kind of a discussion that I really don't want to go too much into, because I've had a lot of discussions about this, and like it just gets always kind of out of hand, and I think it's something that like should either be left for other times, or just for people to make their own opinions. I'll it's just a matter that's like been talked to, like discussed to death, and I think it's just something that needs to be laid to rest.
The only thing I'll say on the subject is, World of Warcraft was created in 2004. We're coming up on 2014, and it is still going strong. Mm-hmm. It has been going strong for almost 10 years now. Mm-hmm. Not a single MMO has touched it. I mean, yeah, EVE Online has been there, but EVE Online is a lot more... It's built up a fan base, and it sort of keeps that fan base.
And you kind of gotta admit, though, the fan base around EVE Online is a very, like, loyal fan base. Yeah,
but
it's a strong fan base. Like, the people that I met, like, are hardcore into it.
But the thing about World of Warcraft is that the reason why it's still going strong is, one, loyal fans that keep coming back, and two, they're always making fresh content. And that's one of the things that, like, when you look at, for instance, let's take an example. Star Wars The Old Republic. Mm-hmm. That game came out in 2011. Or was it 2011? No, it was 2011. I'm pretty sure it was 2011. Anyway, last year, we got an expansion, which upped the level cap, brought a new story, just like a World of Warcraft expansion. That was good. This year, we get an expansion which adds a game mode. It's not substantial content. And that's what World of Warcraft has always done, is that when they release an expansion, they up the level cap, they bring a new story, they bring, new races or new classes, they always bring something new to the table, and it always hooks some new people. And I think that's it's a really strong move, and Blizzard they've done so well in just keeping World of Warcraft on top. And, like, I'm not going to get into the discussion of it. I'm just going to say that no matter what's going to happen, World of Warcraft will be on top until Blizzard stops. When Blizzard decides it's been enough, and they shut down World of Warcraft, that is when the game will be toppled.
The only thing that I kind of want to, like, just mention, like, I know, I like, remember from a while back, at least. I don't know how long it was, but it's not very far back. It's like in the last 3 years or so. But, like, the player base of it has, like, slowly been decreasing, though. There has been, like, talk about that. I know.
Yeah, there has been talk about that. But the thing is, like, I researched this myself. The problem is, or the problem with that argument is, the news of the player base slowing down is always countered when a new expansion comes out. Because every time they release a new expansion, the player base jumps back up and increases from its old record. I noticed that when, I started watching this really when Burning Crusade came out. That came out, the player base, again, skyrocketed, and it started sort of twiddling down. Wrath of the Lich King came out, skyrocketed again. Then they started twiddling down. Cataclysm came out. It skyrocketed. Started twiddling down. Mists of Pandaria came out. It just skyrocketed. And now the player base has started winding down again. It's starting to decrease a little bit. I saw a report of this the other day when they were talking about, I think it was like 400,000 World of Warcraft players had stopped their subscription. Every single one of them is going to come back when, I forget what the newest expansion is called, but when that gets released, they're all going to come back. Because they're going to play the new content, they're going to check out the new classes or the new race or whatever, and they're never going to fully leave. And I think that's sort of what makes World of Warcraft such a powerful, or such a powerhouse, is that they're always creating new content, and it always brings back the old players or brings in new players. Constantly.
Before we get too involved in that, because we were just gonna touch on the matter.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I got way too involved in it. It's a touchy matter. But yeah, it's kind of I think kind of it's gonna
it's not a matter of the like quests or anything like that. If it's gonna be in like No Man's Land, it's just the thing that I think is probably gonna or like might like go up, especially for people like that are heavy role players like me. There might be like rising of some role playing guilds, like guilds or clans or whatever, like at least groups that will probably do something together. And like that's the thing that about role playing groups and like just guilds and such in general, like coming together and doing stuff. And the thing that I hate about like sometimes online communities in MMOs, this is very obvious. Again, in VoD, and I'm just taking it for an example because that's the last time I did this. The player base itself is not very friendly towards.
That is like true. That is true of World of Warcraft, and it's true of any MMO.
Yeah,
you can look at any MMO, go on any forums, and you will find hostile people. It's just a fact.
And the thing that like you can notice a lot is that like if people find role-playing guilds, it's a reason why you don't find a lot of role-playing guilds just by advertising, like asking around. You really need to find the people that are actually doing it, and that's because a lot of the role-playing guilds that actually advertise themselves as role-playing guilds often get shot down or like keep getting like attacked or something by like the enemy team, like enemy teams, and like there are like I know that there were like in between people that like had, because I was an Alliance player, there were like people that had like Alliance guys just to check out the chats, and like to see if like anybody was planning like a raid or something. Like I think it's basically just like guys that go for PKs or like player kills, and like often with role playing groups they would often be like just like they find like role playing groups often find just bases, and like the safest spots for them to be are in cities like like in it was in the main capital of the world, or like in any of the capitals.
That's one of the most dangerous aspects of EVE Online is that basically no place is safe. You're safe nowhere. If you're just mining somewhere, if you're just peacefully doing something, someone finds you, you're dead. You've lost everything. And that's like you can see that by my uncle was talking to me not too long ago about he was an avid EVE Online player, and there was like an official event. I think it was like an official event, and there was like basically just a huge company of people who basically all they do is wreck shit, and they came to this official event and they killed everyone. They destroyed everything just for kicks, and like that is just. That's brutal. And like these people are everywhere. The best thing you can do is try to ignore them and play on PvE servers, or if you're smart, hint hint, private servers. But like
that's kind of where I went into the like in the end I went to a private server just to like that was just specifically for role playing, where there were just role playing guilds. But the thing that I kind of felt about that was like it took sometimes just a bit of the feel away, because like going with a guild, like going with your role playing guys and just like leveling up and going through, like often these like private servers are like made so that you are automatically the highest level and stuff. But I went like through the like and these like guilds, the role playing guilds, they often get like especially hunted on because of like role-playing guilds. A lot of people just they find it funny picking on the guys that really enjoy making stories and creating something.
When I originally, the first time I played World of Warcraft, I tried playing it on the official servers. I went with a free trial. I got up to like level 20 in I think like 5 days, and I was done. And the problem back then was that all private servers, every single one of them, was like instant level 60 or instant level 70 or whatever the level cap was back then. And so like I tried that, but it wasn't fun, because one of the biggest things about MMOs, one of the biggest one of the most fun things is leveling up.
It is creating your character and it's expanding upon that. It's going through the adventure of reaching to high level. It's kind of what we did. Oh, shit. It's kind of what we did in Neverwinter. We went with it's the first time we reached the highest level in the game. We went from level 1 to level 60 together the whole time, and that itself that was really fun.
That's like, but right. I've been looking at a lot of private servers recently for a lot of games, and a lot of World of Warcraft servers are still instant max level, but some are going with the route of increased experience rates.
Mm-hmm.
So like I found a private server the other day, which basically like if you kill an enemy, you get 8 times the amount of experience you would normally get for killing him, but if you complete a quest, you get 18 times the normal experience you get for that quest, which I want to play that because one of the things that bugs me so much about the Old Republic is that I just want to play through the storyline. I have no interest in playing the side quests, but the experience rate is so slow that you can't just play the main quest. You have to play the side quests.
Or level grind.
That is so dull. That is so boring that, like, you have those two options, and it takes forever. It's so boring. And all I want to do is play the storyline.
The worst thing, really, that these games can, like, do is force you to level grind.
Yeah. But one of the things that I found was I found a couple of Neverwinter private servers the other day, and they were not instant max level. Instead, what they did was like they increased gold drop rates and stuff like that. They basically increased the amount of money you get and item drop rates and stuff, but the experience rate was just normal. And I think that's because when they created Neverwinter, they made it so that you level up really fast, and you can notice that if you create a new character in Neverwinter, you can get up to like level 10 in 2 hours.
Yeah.
And the max level is 60. It does not take long.
Going to 60 now.
No, it's actually that's one of the things that's so fun is that like what keeps you invested is the fact that you're constantly leveling up.
Mm-hmm.
And you might think that it would sort of dilute the experience. It doesn't feel as special. But because there's that cap, you're building, and
you are constantly getting better and better and better and better, and you're noticing that.
It feels so good and fun, and I love that.
But yeah,
excuse me.
That's kind of a thing that I'm hoping for like in No Man's Sky, that like. Because I haven't really seen a lot of like role-playing guilds being active or anything like that. I noticed a couple on Neverwinter, but like I haven't really been in the MMO thing since I actually played WoW or anything like that. Because I just realized my biggest problem with the game is then, and it's just so bad when the worst thing about the game is the community.
Yeah.
And this is what I kind of hope for the No Man's Land, like
No Man's Sky.
Yeah, No Man's Sky to do. It's like it will bring back like the active like role-playing people that really like to create stories and such, and just form groups around them. Sure, like even if you go in like you don't need to go in with role-playing in mind, but like if you just go in and just form a group of like people that just want to explore together, that's fine. But like for me personally, I would like to like let's just say I know a couple of people and we just form a little role-playing group of like explorers that explore the galaxy. That is just basically writing your own story.
Yeah.
And like if we want to like okay, let's say like I don't know, we don't know anything about the like, game, so let's say you can mine in it. Just like mining resources so that you can like maybe do like buy a new ship or something, and like we as a small crew like we maybe just have like a small cruiser or something, and we decide to make a mining mission just to go and get resources somewhere, and you can make actually just a good story out of that if you like and role play the experience. If you're like even if you're like attacked by something, like if other players come and attack you and you're like oh shit, like the experience and creating a story around that, even if the other players aren't actually role-playing, you can use that and role play around that. It is kind of a thing that like you learn when you DM in D&D, and you do a lot of D&D. You learn that you often and like me, I'm from like an acting background. You learn how to like utilize everything that like happens, because like when you're a DM, like, and something unexpected happens, you're expected to be able to fix it.
Yeah.
Or like at least fill in the hole. And that's kind of the thing that everyone does together in role-playing groups, where there's nobody that's like a lead DM or anything. The story just goes with the flow. Yeah. And just like I said,
I'd like to apologize. I stepped on a piece of glass earlier today, and I'm feeling some stings in my legs. So sorry.
But yeah, like just going on a little mining mission on a planet and ending up getting maybe attacked. Sure, we didn't expect it to be like as eventful as it was, but it was eventful and most likely fun, even if it ends badly.
Yeah.
Because something unexpected happened. And like the worst thing that could happen to us is that like we'd get stranded on the planet, maybe, but still we'd get an experience out of that.
Yeah.
Like making a story to get off the planet somehow, so that we can continue our exploration and stuff. We'd end up having to buy a new ship anyway. Like, sure, not the Grand Cruiser we were expecting, but we'd maybe buy like a small ship, or like maybe find a broken ship that we'd fix together or something. Whatever the game will actually offer to us and stuff. Like, it might not go that far with things. And like I said, I don't know anything about the game, but like these kind of things added to the game or something like that would add a lot of experience to it, because like even if you could go and do the mining mission itself without actually having to go and mine, you just go there to do it. The actual fact of having to do the thing adds to the experience. It's kind of like it's not really, I haven't heard about it a lot, but like in Minecraft, if you're role playing there, if you're actually role playing a mining society and going and doing the mining stuff, like you'd actually be doing what you're like aiming to do, collecting resources and stuff, and it's kind of a fun thing to like speculate and utilize, and that is what I kind of want like games to think about a bit more. The community that likes to create around this like thing.
Yeah, I think definitely one of the things that I'm hoping for from No Man's Sky is, you know, they've talked about it being an MMO, but I still hope they give the sort of the choice of having your own server or having your own world, so that you can, you know, you're not tied to being in worlds where you're constantly under the threat of being attacked.
That you can kind of control your environment.
Yeah. I think that's definitely, because like me personally, I would not mind being in single player just to explore, just fly around, you know, go to different planets and just looking at them.
That's the kind of thing that I'm really happy about, like Minecraft, because like Minecraft would never work if they just have one main server. But like people creating their own servers, whether they become massive servers or not, the thing is, you always want to kind of control who you're around. Like that's why often people just rent out their own servers to actually play with just the people they want to play with. And like people don't want to like be around whoever. And like that's the thing about Minecraft that's good, because like there are a lot of griefers in Minecraft, and you don't want them to be like getting on your server and stuff. And it's just a different thing. And like with No Man's Sky, I don't think it's gonna be any different there. You don't want always people coming, like even if they're just NPCs and stuff, like sure, that's gonna be fun, you're gonna have encounters even in single player. But like in Minecraft, you're playing alone, you could just explore and you're still gonna have encounters of some sorts and stuff. And the same could apply to No Man's Sky. You're gonna explore and you're probably gonna encounter like all sorts of things, even if they're gonna be whether they're gonna be hostile or not. And that's kind of a thing that like I said, it's something that like many games need, it's the freedom of doing like kind of whatever you want and having enough possibilities. And that's kind of a thing that Minecraft does good because you have a lot of possibilities of doing stuff. You're like, you're given so many things to do, and like, sure, a lot of the biggest things you see from the games are redstoning and like building, but there are a lot of things you can do. You can explore, create a lot of other games. Like all the PvP games and like other games that have been created just around inside of Minecraft. That's fun. It's just fun seeing it. And I think like in like No Man's Sky, if you have all of these possibilities, like you might have the possibility of like finding a planet and you could create a base on it. That is cool, in my opinion, because then you can create a place where you keep all of your stuff. Like this is where you would call home, and you could always retreat back on. And like if you'd have like a guild or something, this would be your base. And I think like if you can interact with the environment like by collecting resources and stuff, that's a good thing.
Definitely.
I don't think they need to probably go. I don't think they need to go to the same extent as Minecraft necessarily. Like you don't need to have like a hunger bar or anything like that. I just think like you should keep all the possibilities open. It's kind of like in Skyrim. You can have food in it, but you don't need to eat it.
Exactly. Yeah, it needs, like, in my opinion, Minecraft takes the the approach that you need to survive, but you don't need to sort of make everything, like, if you're building a building, you don't need to, have supports in the building or something like that. You can make it whatever you want. Whereas I think in No Man's Sky, it would benefit a lot more if they went with the sort of approach that, if you're building a building, you can make it what you want, but you need to support it. You need to keep it up because of gravity and stuff. And, the differences of gravity between planets. But, like, the whole surviving aspect, that may be a bit of a different, like, they may go a little more liberal on that aspect. I think that would be a very good approach.
And this is just like speculation about like what would be fun for us to experience in the game. Like we don't personally know what's gonna be in the game.
Exactly.
But like I said, it would be fun for us personally to experience this, and like getting a sci-fi game like that offers a lot of potential role playing, even though it's not implemented specifically into the game, is good. And that is, as I mentioned, that's the problem that I have with sci-fi games to begin with, is that there aren't enough role-playing games in them, or games that offer you role-playing and like the ability to explore the universe.
There's a real lack of that. So,
I think that's that for now. Before we go rambling a bit more, because like every time we start a subject, we go on like half an hour.
We could talk for hours and hours and hours. We have to draw the line somewhere. So, for this, we're gonna say thanks for watching.
We'll hopefully bring more soon.
Yes.
Because this was fun. It's a way to like express ourselves in a useful way, at least. And I think it's like, even if it doesn't like do any specific impact or anything, it's fun for like it is fun letting you guys know like our opinions on things and thoughts. Like even if you disagree with them, like sure, everyone has their own opinions, like we said before, but knowing that there are people that either disagree or agree with our thoughts and such, it's gonna be fun to know and like speculate, and maybe some people have interesting ideas that are fun to write on, like fun to actually read and stuff.
I know there's a few topics I want to get into with you on future podcasts, but we'll leave it at that. So thanks for watching.
This is G-20.
And this is Super Slayer.
You have been listening to us ramble.
And I guess I should mention it this time. And we're the Shin Tenseis.
Yes! You're so... I've been doing it 90% of the time.
I finally get to say it. Anyway, we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah.
Peace.
Bye.